everybody and welcome back. If you've been watching any of my recent Marvel Legends videos, you'll know that I'm trying to catch up on a bit of a backlog, and by George, the Hasbro machine pumps these out at quite a pace. So today I'm going to pick up on another of the Strange Tales wave figures. I didn't go particularly deep on this wave, I don't have all the figures in the wave, but there were a couple of key highlights in this wave for me that I really wanted to pick up. One of them was Dracula, as we saw yesterday, and the other is Lilith. Now, Lilith might be a slightly obscure character to some. You may not know her because she isn't that ubiquitous in the Marvel Universe. The reason I have a lot of affection for this character is because she was one of the main villains for the Danny Ketch version of Ghost Rider in the 1990s, which I grew up reading. So I love this character, I love that era, and I love that particular run of comics. So for me, this character has actually long been towards the top of my wish list for the Marvel Legends treatment. So without further ado, let's kick off by taking a look at the packaging then. Well, as we can see, this is adopting the new brand of packaging that we're seeing for Marvel Legends. It is in that chunkier box, which I think is quite nice for the most part. It's definitely much more robust than what we had previously. It is a little bit broader and a little bit bigger, so in terms of taking up space, it's a little bit less convenient. But all in all, it's not too different in all truth. We have this window display, we have the logo at the bottom of the packaging, and then these black borders. I think this shows off the figure quite nicely. I think it's still relatively eye-catching, and it does its job, essentially. Where this packaging is a little bit better, though, in my opinion, is on the side panel, because we have now a slightly larger canvas here to really show off some really nice artwork. Here we have some artwork here from the Cubit brothers, brilliant run on this particular title back in the 90s, and it's great to see it writ large here. So I think this looks great. You can put this with your other figures on your shelf and you have a really nice display. Likewise, if you flip it over and look at the back of the packaging, we have a slightly enlarged image there, which looks brilliant, a little bit of text, and we can see the other figures in the wave. So still displayable, not quite as attractive as what we see on the side panel because obviously images are smaller, but all in all, very successful. Now, despite my love for the character and my excitement for this figure, I have to say, immediately we run into problems with this particular release. If we start off by taking a look at the head sculpt, though, I think they've done a pretty decent job here. This is a good start. It's well sculpted. Obviously, it's brand new. We don't have any other characters with this head shape in the Marvel Universe. So this works pretty well. The paint apps, for the most part, are well applied. There's a lot going on here in terms of the purple around the eyes and on the lips, etc. But it just looks a little bit underwhelming. It looks a little bit blurred and a bit smudged in places to me. It's not quite as smooth as I would like. And yeah, it doesn't look quite right, but it's not bad. Where things do unfortunately get into the bad territory is when we start looking at the body, particularly around the paint apps. Now, in terms of the body sculpting, clearly they've just simply recycled the existing generic female body mold. I don't think that works particularly well for this character who has a lot of detail in her costume, and where they've try to apply that detail is through the paint apps, which don't really work here. There's an awful lot of cross-hatch work when it comes to the top of the lacy top of the costume, likewise on the legs, what is basically fishnets, and of course the boots that she wears. This has all been done through paint, and as you can see, it's just really, really unconvincing because it's very flat. There's no sense of depth or texture to this figure, and to make matters worse, there are areas where we can see the paint and the lines don't quite meet the join where they should. Particularly, you can see this on the boots there. You can see there's a gap between the top of the boot and the start of the fishnet, which just looks strange and weird and a bit lazy all in all. And then we have the hair, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this. Now, to be fair, this is a tricky one to pull off because Lilith's hair is kind of partly veil, with lots of holes in it, but also hair texture as well. So there's a lot going on here. Difficult one to bring to life in toy form, in all fairness. The approach that Hasbro have gone for here is to make this a sort of translucent plastic, but with lots of holes in it, but then also having very dark areas of shading, which works well for the most part, but it does have that very plastic feel to it. It does feel like it could snap. It's not particularly malleable either, which is definitely going to cause some issues in the articulation. So with that being said, let's take a look at the articulation. She does have a ball joint to the top of the neck, so she can spin her head from side to side, but as you can see, there's a little bit of hindrance there. She can wobble it left and right. When it comes to bending forwards and backwards, it's not really happening at all. Part of that is because of that plastic hairpiece, but also because the joint doesn't seem to want to cooperate anyway. She does have a ball joint in the top of the shoulder, so that arm will lift up and out. She does have the bicep swivel there as well. And thankfully, they have given her a double pin at the elbow, so she can get her fist all the way back to her head there, which is great. She doesn't have the standard pin swivel, and of course she's got that additional loose collar, which again just looks a little bit incongruous. I'd rather this was sculpted in, but hey, what are you going to do? Now, she's got the single joint in the top of the torso there, which will allow her to lean from side to side. It will let her swivel from side to side as well. And, of course, it will allow her to bend forwards and backwards. She has a standard ball joint in the hips, the legs will kick out to the side, there's the thigh swivel at the top there, the leg will kick forwards, it'll kick backwards, another double pin in the knee, so that lower leg can kick all the way back, which is great, and then she's got the standard ankle rocker as well, so that foot will hinge forwards and backwards, and it will pivot from side to side. Sadly, she is quite light on accessories. She just comes with an alternate pair of open palm hands and her cape, if you class that as an accessory. Naturally, the cape just plugs into a peg in her back and looks fine. It's just a loose piece of plastic, really, again, very stiff, very unmalleable, and it doesn't really add an awful lot to the overall presentation of the figure, which is, disappointing. I can't think of any other accessories that I would expect this figure to come with. No alternate heads or anything like that. There's no specific weapons or anything like that I can think of the character using that would be appropriate here. So I think that's actually fine. But my problem with this figure is really about presentation. So in summary then, I'm going to have to give this figure just 2 stars. And I was tempted to actually give it 1, but it's not higher. So I think it warrants the 2. But it doesn't do anything to move the needle, and this is really disappointing. Now, I can understand why Hasbro probably not put a lot of effort into this particular release because she isn't the most popular or well-known character, and I think this is probably a little bit of a risk for them, in all honesty. This just happens to be one that I really, really like, and I expected a bit more from. So I am disappointed with the overall look with this. I think this has really just been a victim of the fact that it hasn't had a unique sculpt and that hasn't been particularly well thought through. They've just tried to use what already exists and just try to cobble something together through paint to create the effect with minimal sculpting. I think it's fine. She works as a stand-in. It's not the worst figure I've ever seen, not even in the Marvel Legends line, but it is disappointing overall, and it's just serviceable. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and remember to subscribe as there'll be plenty more videos soon.